Oh man, Eraserhead was just opened up all these possibilities within cinema. It wasn't like anything I had seen before. It was so genuine to itself. It was just from somebody who was, you could just tell, David Lynch. I mean, I'd seen Blue Velvet, so I knew who he was. But then when I watched Eraserhead, it was kind of just someone following their instincts and just being just true to themselves. And it was something that so many people told me how weird it was, and I go, oh, this is a movie about a guy afraid of getting married and having a kid, you know? And you watch it and you go, I bet this guy was, married and had a kid and was freaked out. And then I, read his book, and yeah, he was. It was just like, it was an artistic expression of his fears, of, yeah, he's married to someone and her family, and getting this girl pregnant who's a little crazy and not really, and she doesn't like him, and they have this really acrimonious relationship, and he lusts for that woman across the hallway, and fear of having a baby, and what if that baby is deformed. I always remember when the baby's crying and it's in the night and has the humidifier on, and then turns on the light and the baby has all the sores over his face, and Jack Nance goes, "Oh, you are sick." I was like, Jesus Christ. And then, the lady in the elevator, and the lady in the radiator, her coming out of the darkness when she sings in heaven. I always thought that was so creepy. She just comes right out of total darkness. I just appreciated something that worked on this kind of like horror film level, but was so unique to itself, to that person. And it's just very honest and heartbreaking. And again, I keep going, it's just something very, I think, relatable to people. It was like a guy, just his own expression of what he was going through, but it came out in this weird story. I just thought, oh wow, you could do that. That's really cool. It all kind of has this 50s kind of 60s vibe to it, especially that scene with the parents. You watch what happens in that scene, and if you don't say what the scene is, but you just put it out in an outline, it is Ozzie and Harriet kind of thing, going to meet the parents, they sit down, they eat dinner and everything like that. But in this one, it's, the chicken starts shooting blood out between its legs, basically, and it's, these close-ups of the orifice, and it's just it's this like terror of, I don't know, sexuality or something. You know what I mean? It's really unnerving, but it means something. It's not just kind of surface and there for effect. In his best stuff, I always feel like there's always this really, really deep meaning to it that I think to him is really simple.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you could go to like the collective unconscious and David Lynch movie. I'm sure there's been 1 billion papers written about whatever those archetypes are.
It's cool though. I like that stuff.
Yeah, where you see something like, I mean, Eraserhead. I mean, I remember seeing that movie, and
so good.
And going like, oh, this is a movie about the fear of having a kid and the fear of responsibility and these things that's done in this. Is it? I don't know. It's also, but it seems like his stuff just seems so, to me at least, very deeply personal. The best stuff is just so deeply personal. He is an artist where it's like, I don't know if he knows what it means, but it's like, but it connects to me.
I think he doesn't.
It connects to me because it's honest.
Yeah.
So I go, man, because he's being genuine.
Elephant Man is a brilliant film. Yeah. It was so heartbreaking too. I remember my parents telling me about the Elephant Man, and I thought it was sad, about a deformed man who couldn't lay down to sleep, and if he lay down, he'd die. It was just so heartbreaking. And for David Lynch to be able to take that script and to take that and bring some of his own thing to it and his own kind of be intuitive with it, but not smother it, he made like an incredibly handsome movie. You don't think, I give Mel Brooks deserves a lot of credit for seeing Eraserhead and being like, yeah, this guy could shoot Elephant Man with all these massive British actors and something that needs a really specific, gentle touch to it. And John Hurt's performance is amazing, and Anthony Hopkins, the first time he sees him, he just cries. Remember, it's so heartbreaking. And yeah, that was a brilliant scene where he comes in, you don't even show the Elephant Man, it's just Anthony Hopkins' reaction to him, and just one tear goes down his eye. I mean, it's pretty startling that the guy who's doing the guy who did Eraserhead could, on his second film and first big studio film, have this kind of confidence of how to stage things and shoot things. It was pretty amazing. A friend of mine told me he saw Elephant Man in the theater, and there was a scene where Elephant Man's talking to the singer woman, and it's a very sweet, gentle scene, and she's kind of looking at him like he's a human, and she's saying, "It's so nice to meet you," and it's this quiet moment, and the guy in the theater went, "Killer Elephant Man." Like, he's like, "This is a monster movie, right? When's Elephant Man gonna start killing people?"
People on Twitter a few months ago noticed a correlation between a story you told and another actor, Ryan Gosling, told.
Yeah. So, that Nick Frost told me that story 15 years ago. So the story was Nick Frost said he was in the movie Elephant Man, and he's watching the movie, and the end of the movie, there's that opera singer, and she's talking to Elephant Man, and she's being she's talking to the Elephant Man,
John Merrick.
So she's talking to
the noble John.
The noble John Merrick.
Yes.
And she's treating him like a human. And some guy in the theater yelled out, "Killer Elephant Man!" Like he thought it was a monster movie.
Totally.
So he told me that story, and I thought it was very funny, and I told it. And then I guess Ryan Gosling told the exact same story, like it happened to him. Maybe it did happen to him. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible.
But now it's this whole. I'm not on social media,
Is
but
it a feud? Is it a social media feud?
people will come up to me and be like, "Hey, man, Gosling stole your story," and I'm like, "Hey, man, get a fucking life." Yeah, Blue Velvet is just like I think just one of the great movies, and Blue Velvet's the one though that I watched. I've seen that. Yeah, I don't know how many times I've seen that movie. It just and that again, that thing of why is the most the most entertaining person in that movie the most evil, and that Frank Booth, and you go, he is a monster, a piece of shit. Like the first scene in that movie with him and Isabel Ferré is one of the hardest scenes to watch in movies.
Yep.
The other one is Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet's another one. When you guys got to check out Blue Velvet, and I've shown it to friends, and they just go, "No way, man."
Wow.
Yeah. Isabella Rossellini beaten up walking down the street. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's very rough. But there's something about, that's what that movie's about, is there's something alluring about that darkness. And it's Kyle MacLachlan trying to, this innocent guy trying to deal with that. It has echoes of that Vertigo thing for sure, of this very nice, what's the weird seediness going on underneath? They're very American.
Yeah.
Very American stories to me. Yeah, even the robin at the end eating the worm, which is like the robins have come home to save the day, and good will fight, overcome evil, and all this. That robin looks very fake. It's like animatronic, and it doesn't look doesn't look real. So that is its own.
Yeah,
like. He could have gotten a real bird or gotten someone to do it, but in his mind, it's like, no, it needs to look like this, and that that works because it makes me go, I don't know if that's real.
Yeah,
but I want it to be real. I want that to be a real robin, but I don't think that robin exists. Here's a crazy story. Fell asleep in my car in front of photocam, right? And because I was waiting for this stuff to come out, and I was with my friend, and it was a film that we had made, and so we're sitting there and we're asleep, and we get up, and my friend's like, "Dude, get up," and I go, "What?" And he's like, "David Lynch is outside," and I look up, and there's David Lynch smoking a cigarette, and I was like, and then he goes, "I have a fucking Twin Peaks t-shirt on." And I was like, "Turn that shit inside out, dude. That's so embarrassing." And then we just stared at him. We got out of the car and just stared at him, and he was like, "Hey." And then we were like, "Right, cool, right on." And then my friend was way more savvy than I just stared at him, and he was like, "What are you doing?" He goes, I'm working on this movie about a guy who drives a tractor across country, and A Straight Story, which is a beautiful movie. And so, that was my first celebrity sighting, and I was like, oh my God,